that'll be coming up. But we do want to get into the latest that we're learning out of this really horrific child abuse case out of Vinton County. So this is a story that the layers of the onion just keep unraveling. This all happened in Hamden, which is just south of MacArthur, there in Vinton County. 4 people have been arrested. It's the parents and the grandparents, as we're told by the AG's office, the Attorney General's office. So all who have been arrested and now charged with 16 counts of child endangerment are Gary Jr., Gary Sr., along with Christina and Elizabeth Siders. So these are the 4 people. We believe, at least according right now to the information that we've been given by the Vinton County Sheriff's Office, the Vinton County Prosecutor, and AG Wilson, that Elizabeth and Gary Jr. are the parents, and then Christina and Gary Sr. are the grandparents of all of these children. We know that it didn't happen that law enforcement we now know that the law enforcement didn't get there due to anything dealing with these children.
No, they said there was a parallel investigation going on that led them to this house.
Right.
And then when they went into the house to execute the search warrant, that's when they found the 16 kids in a literal 12 by 12 room. And they believe they had been in there for 4 years.
Right.
There was feces on the ground, other bacteria. A lot of these kids, they don't even know how to speak. The 18-year-old, we've been told, can't even write their name. Just horrible living conditions that the sheriff there said basically livestock animals have been treated
because we
better.
don't know how many, if any of them, ever went to school. We know the younger ones did not, but we don't know about the older ones.
Yeah, and from what investigators said yesterday, they moved around quite a bit to kind of avoid, to keep hiding their kids, actually.
And we, digging into kind of some of their background and looking into some of the things that we've been told by people, we know this family for a long time lived around Gallipolis down in Gallia County, right there across from West Virginia. Carla Rogner spent some time yesterday really digging into this family's history and where they've moved around to. We're going to go ahead and take a listen to what Carla kind of found out about the Siderses.
Vinton County prosecutor referred to Gary Sr. and Christina as the grandparents and said Elizabeth and Gary Jr. were parents, but would not say if Elizabeth was the mother of all 16 children. We learned through a marriage record from West Virginia that Gary Siders Jr. wed Elizabeth in 2008 when she was just 15 years old. That's the same year the first child was born. We looked through the family's criminal records. Aside from a few traffic issues, a DUI for Gary Sr. in 1998 was the most serious offense we could find. Authorities say the family bounced around southeastern Ohio, even Wisconsin, before landing in the Vinton County home, where authorities uncovered this house of horrors.
Just almost beyond comprehension that this stuff can happen in our country and that it can happen in a house at the hands of people who are in charge of taking care of kids.
So I dug into the West Virginia records for Carla because we knew that these two had some connections to West Virginia. Digging in, I found that these two got married in Mason County, West Virginia, which is right across the river from Gallia County there. And these two were married March 31st, 2008. We know that Elizabeth was 15, like just newly 15. And the reason they did this, I don't know the entire reason behind this, but at the time, both Ohio and Kentucky, as they do today, require people to be at least 17 to marry. In 2008, West Virginia's minimum requirement for marriage was 14.
Wow.
That has since been changed as of 2023 to what are the surrounding states, which is 18, but then 17 with judicial and parental permission, etc.
And now we know from court records that basically Elizabeth started having children immediately
basically
after.
Later that year
when she was still 15 years old. So Carla wrote out basically all the ages of these children that were found inside this home. So basically when you do the math, you realize Elizabeth has basically been pregnant almost every single year.
Right. Every year to about a year and a half is kind of the math we figured out. We know that there's sets of twins. Yeah, multiple sets of twins in there. But
we are told by investigators that some remain in the hospital, some have been discharged. We know 2 were life flighted, care flighted to level 1 trauma hospitals for care.
And
So it's just, I mean, it's
a horrific thing. And we talk about the room because we've seen the house and we see the size of the house. It's not a huge house, but we know that these children were confined to a 12 by 12 room.
And this is the house right now in Vinton County, taking a look at it. It still has the caution tape up there this morning because this investigation remains ongoing. But, I mean, you can just see piles of trash literally spilling out of it. The windows are open. It looks very disheveled inside, and it smells. We've heard that on multiple accounts that it really, really smells near there.
And Kevin Landers took a dive into, because we talk about 12 by 12 and it's hard to visualize, the size of that. 12 by 12, 10 by 10 is about the size of a standard home bedroom before, and if you don't really have a visual idea of that, it's hard to just, really visualize how tight that would be for 16 people. So we're talking 144 square feet. That's not a lot for 16 people. Kevin Landers really dug into this and some of the reaction that authorities had to this.
According to investigators, the 16 children lived in a space this big. This is a 12 by 12 box. There was no access to restrooms, but this cramped area only tells part of the story.
I can still smell. I can't get the smell. I cannot get the smell off of me or away from me.
The images from inside this Vinton County home continue to haunt those who are building a case against the people who created it.
A large number of people, though, the children were kept in a roughly 12 by 12 area. It seems like is where they've spent the most of the last 4 years.
7 of the children needed hospitalization. 1 is in intensive care in critical condition.
It looked like almost feral animals.
Investigators say none appeared to have ever gone to school.
Some of these children couldn't even speak.
The question is, where will these children go from here? How will the state protect them? Who will take them? Otis Corcoran is the executive director of Athens County Children's Services.
If what I hear is correct, it's difficult in the fact of what they've gone through, but it's also difficult because of the number of children. So even if these children were totally healthy, it's difficult to place that many children in such a short period of time.
He says in cases like this, it tests the system.
It does test the system because you got to coordinate, and plus, given the time period, you got to move pretty quick. So getting everybody on the same page, finding out what you need, and having everyone really move into action to make sure we're doing the very best we can for these children.
And so again, these are the 4 adults that we know to be living in that home. So Gary Siders Sr., Gary Siders Jr., Elizabeth Siders, Christina Siders.
All 4 charged with 16 counts of child endangerment. They're being held on $300,000 each on bond for this. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are like, how could this happen? So
how did it fall through the cracks?
How did this fall through the cracks? And, we kind of heard, Vinton County is about 13,000 people.
It's a very small community.
It's a small community, and
they're specifically in the Village of Hamden too, which is even smaller.
Which is about a couple hundred people. And I grew up in a county about this size, that a very similarly rural community. And when you get into that size and these communities that size, it's really easy to never see anybody else.
Really?
Because you're spread apart, and if you choose to, you can kind of just ignore what's going on around you. And there's also the difference that rural poverty is incredibly different than urban poverty, but it's growing up in this situation, nothing this horrific, but
I mean, this has got to be one of the worst cases.
But you've seen homes in similar situations in states as that, and people that we talked to, Libby Cathy was down there talking with people in the community who might have been 5 minutes down the road, had no idea these people existed.
And this is another thing I would like to add. This house right here, it was in a trust for a woman that
had died.
So we're not sure if they just kind of stumbled upon this.
No, they had been there for 4 years. She had only died within the last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the woman who owned that house had only died within the last year. So a trust is now handling it. But we know they moved in about 4 years ago. So it's a complex case. And then we also talk about placing these kids. In a county of 13,000, the Department of, the Vinton County Department of Child and Family Services, however they declare to name it there, is now tasked with placing 16 children in a county of 13,000 people. To find foster families in a county that size for that many kids all at once is a Herculean task.
Well, that are severely traumatized.
Right. It's a right. So it's going to be and we heard that from the Athens County Department of Children and Family Services, that this is a difficult effort. But as I mentioned, in how hard it is to not see this, but also how easy it is to also not see it. Libby Cathy went down and kind of took a look that, there were things that people saw, the hindsight's 2020, right?
Always.
Of that, well, I noticed this, but maybe if I had thought about it more, it would have raised the red flags.
We're extremely angry people who would take advantage of kids this way.
Knowing what I know now, I would have said something for sure.
The quiet village of Hamden still processing what authorities describe as horrific conditions inside this home on Ohmer Road.
You can see that it's on a railroad bed and it's on a dead end. There's really no houses around it. So I think that's maybe how they got away with it.
Ralph Henneman has lived in Vinton County for more than 2 decades.
And I don't think I've ever went down this road. So that kind of gives you an idea of how many people are back here.
I spoke to an employee at the Dollar General less than a mile from the home who says he regularly saw Gary Siders Jr. and Elizabeth Siders shopping just before closing.
They had very poor hygiene. Their clothes were always in a lot of disarray. It seemed as if that she was always consistently pregnant or like in labor in some way. They were pretty in and out. So,
what kinds of things were they buying?
Every once in a while it would be diapers, but besides that, just general food, milk, just other like junk food and stuff like that. They would pay with multiple different cards, one with like $1 on it and whatnot, but and they would just shuffle through them.
Now he says he's left wondering whether there was something he could have done.
And it makes me question my own actions, whether or not I should have asked them about it consistently, either not asked about their hygiene or see if they needed anything, or anything I could have done to maybe prevent this in any way, because it looked like there were signs.
Others say it's a sobering reminder.
It's scary to think that there's monsters that live amongst you.
And, I guess, you hear from the Dollar General employee who is like, well, she always seemed pregnant at anytime I saw her. Why didn't I do something? But I guess, if in that situation, you see that, you see so many people all the time,
right?
That it probably is just something that you lose kind of track of time, and that like.
And you're allowed to have a lot of babies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if that's a family's choice, that's their choice.
Yeah, I know plenty of families who have 11, 12 kids, but
I don't know any.
It is a difficult this is an interesting case that is one that we haven't seen in a long, long time.
Not especially in this area.
Right. And we hear, we've heard from Andy Wilson that he's never come across something like this.
No, and he's been in
his
law
time. And
for decades.
Right. And I think now the focus, besides the prosecution of these four adults, it comes to the focus of how do we best care for these children? How do we find the resources for them? And because you're also struggling with, you separate 16 siblings across the county.
Right, but they need to be protected right now, and they need a lot of help. But the governor, the state is rallying around these children.
And it's also important to note, because the state is investigating this, and I would bet the farm that these 16 counts of child endangerment will not be the only ones.
No, they expect more
because
charges.
BCI is deepening this investigation, because they want anybody who has any knowledge of this family to come forward. It doesn't matter how deep your knowledge is. If you know anything about these folks, if you've ever come in contact with them, they do want to hear from you. And the number for that is 855-BCI-OHIO. It's a hotline to them. So that, once again, 855-BCI-OHIO.